John McMullin from 973ESPN.com. John, the latest has Matt Barkley traded to Arizona for a late-round pick. I guess this means that Tim Tebow will be your third stringer.
Yeah, and, we always talked about it kind of shaped up that way, and that was the feeling I got from early in camp, that the Eagles would like to move Matt Barkley if they could to open up a roster spot for Tim Tebow. What we didn't expect is that Tebow would significantly outplay him in preseason game number 4. That was a surprise to most of us, and I thought early in camp, certainly after the Indianapolis game, I thought the Eagles would be able to get something for Barkley, and I kind of tempered those thoughts as the preseason continued, because the bottom line, he just wasn't playing all that well. But I think this is a good thing for him and the Eagles, because a change of scenery. He's obviously not fit for this type of offense, and Arizona plays a more traditional, progression-based system, and that'll fit him better. And obviously, the Eagles get what they want, a roster spot for Tim Tebow.
Is it as simple as just Tim Tebow outplaying Matt Barkley this preseason, plain and simple? Because, Tim Tebow was out of football for about a year and a half. Matt Barkley, this is his third season in this offense. Is it just as simple as Tim Tebow outplaying Barkley this preseason?
No, I don't think so. And to be honest, I don't think he did until last night. Clearly he played better against the Jets. There's no question about that. But I think it would be a tough sell to say that he was consistently better than Barkley throughout the entire preseason and training camp. And that's the reason, even to the last day. Remember, Matt Barkley was the starter. Matt Barkley was still third on the depth chart. He was always in the game first because he was ahead of Tim Tebow. But, Tebow offers some different things as far as the zone read and the mobility and things like that Chip likes. The specialization we can talk about. I don't think it's as big as a deal as other people have made it out to be, simply because, again, if you need a key 2-point conversion at some point, I would much rather keep Sam Bradford on the field or hand the ball off to DeMarco Murray than put Tim Tebow in the game. So I think that part of it's overblown. The other aspects, I think Chip likes his game. I think he likes the fact that he thinks that he can create something out of a player that others failed with. I think the egos are part of it. Don't dismiss that. And I think the culture aspect of it is big, because everything you've heard about Tim Tebow is true. He is a tremendously hard worker. He is a good guy. Everybody gets along with him. So I think all of that came into the decision-making.
Well, let me ask you this, and we kind of talked about this yesterday about the 46 game day roster. I go back to what happened last season with Nick Foles going down in that Texans game. Mark Sanchez came in, and he basically won that game with Nick Foles not being able to return in that game. If that happens again this season, I would expect Mark Sanchez to be in that same situation. So are you dressing Tim Tebow a lot this season, or does he remain inactive most of the time?
Well, that's tough. I think, one of the things is, and that a lot of teams think that rules should be changed, because the fact you do have to go down from 53 to 46 on game day is an issue, because you have to make some harsh decisions. And if you dress Tim Tebow, that obviously means somebody else is not going to be able to be active on game day that can probably help you on special teams or some other aspect. So to me, it would be tough to justify, putting him in uniform. And I've always advocated, not just for the Eagles, but for most teams in the NFL today. I think with the rules as they are now, I think it's more prudent to keep only 2 quarterbacks on your 53-man roster than 3, because you have the 10-man practice squad now. So you can keep a youngster on the practice squad. If something horrible happens, you can bring them up in that particular week. So I think that's the thinking of the league in general, and that's the way things are going. But it's tougher here in Philadelphia, because the reality is Sam Bradford still has that injury history. Mark Sanchez has a significant injury history. So it's tougher for them to go the two-quarterback route than other teams. But it's another leap to get them on the field on Sundays, and I don't think specialization for a possible two-point conversion is good enough to say he should be dressing over somebody else who can help you on special teams.
John McMullin, our Eagles insider, with me right now on 97.3 ESPN FM. Cutdown day is tomorrow at 4 o'clock, but some names have been trickling out. According to reports, none of these are official now, but according to some reports, some names that have been released by the Eagles, Chris Brzezinski is one of them, Julian Vandervelde is another, John Moffitt, Randall Evans, a late-round pick from this past season, and Rasheed Bailey, the local kid from Philadelphia. What guys for you so far, John, have stood out, maybe a bit of a surprise getting cut today by the Eagles?
Well, no real surprises. The only guy that I had on my final 53 that's been cut so far is Moffitt, and even that was sort of a stretch. I thought the Eagles saw sort of a ceiling there, and they'd be willing to bite the bullet even though he was so rusty and keep him on the 53. But they went in a different direction, so it's not a great surprise to me. Brzezinski, I know that got a lot of people, a lot of Eagles fans by surprise, but to me, it's difficult when you look at the position, and he was going against Ajira Tutu, who's a wide receiver, and they're both special team standouts, and it's more difficult to keep a guy at safety who's just really a special teamer than, as the sixth wide receiver, which is what Ajira Tutu would be. So rarely you're going to need a sixth wide receiver to help you in the passing game, so you can keep a special teams guy. But your fourth safety, you might need him to play. So I think that was the mentality there, and it comes down to Ed Reynolds or Jerome Copeland, and I still think there's a possibility of a waiver wire pickup because the Eagles have such a lack of depth at the safety position.
I wanted to ask you, John, about Eric Rowe. This guy has played a lot of football this preseason. He got a lot of snaps last night, and he's really played a lot of football. We haven't seen too much of Maxwell and some of the other guys from the secondary, but Eric Rowe continued to struggle last night in that game against the Jets. He's obviously going to make the team, but second-round pick, that slot corner position, he hasn't been able to really grab the brass ring, so to speak. Any concern with Eric Rowe?
Well, a lot of concern in the short term. I don't think he's ready to play. I don't think he will play a lot in the early part of the season at least. He's taken a significant step back over the past 2 weeks, and if you think about who the Eagles are playing in the season opener, the Atlanta Falcons, the strength of that team is Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Roddy White, and you can bet if Eric Rowe's on the field, they're going to be going after him, and they're going to be going after him consistently. And I think the Eagles know that. I think they know he's not ready to play just yet. So I think the plan is going to be probably to rely on somebody else at that nickel position, whether it's E.J. Bigger's a veteran, whether it's Jalen Watkins, somebody like that who made at least a bit of a splash yesterday with the interception. Those guys seem better prepared in coverage. There's still hopes for Rowe, though. To me, though, he looks like a natural safety. He really does. The hips don't look good for a cornerback. He's lanky, and that's what the Eagles want. He's got athleticism. But he played 3 years at safety in Utah, and he just looks like a safety to me. And I think at some point that's going to be the ultimate end game. The Eagles are going to say that's just his more natural position to move him inside. But that's down the line. They still have high hopes for him. Unfortunately, you would like a second-round pick to be able to help you immediately. It doesn't look like that's going to be able to happen, though.
And John, one more on that with Rowe is, yes, he is a safety, but the guy playing safety right now is Walter Thurman III. This guy is a corner. I mean, he was a slot corner in his career. So what's the reasoning in the Eagles having Thurman at safety and Rowe at corner? It should be reversed. Well, common sense will tell you it should be reversed, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, what you have to take it a step further and realize what the Eagles want at their corners, and they consider Rowe an outside corner, he wouldn't be playing the slot anyway. If he was on the field, for instance, against the Falcons, he would come in to play the outside corner. Nolan Carroll would kind of slip down and play inside the slot. So they never had any intention, really, of playing him in the slot. They gave him a few reps here and there just to cross-train him and see how it worked out. It didn't work out well. And what the Eagles want is size, and he does have that. He's very long, as we said, and he's got that speed, whereas Thurman is a smaller guy. And as you said, he really made his bones in this league as a sort of a junior member of the Legion of Boom in Seattle, playing nickel corner before he even went to the Giants. So he's got coverage ability, and that's what the Eagles wanted, safety. And by the way, so far, and it's early, obviously, we haven't even started, but the preseason, that's one move that has worked out for them. They've been very happy with the way Thurman has made the adjustment to playing next to Malcolm Jenkins, so they don't want to shake that up at all.
Do you think, John, that knowing what we know now with the injury to Shepard and with the struggles of Eric Rowe, I know the Eagles got a good return in exchange for Brandon Boykin, a fourth-round pick, but do you think, knowing what we know now, Chip Kelly, honestly would tell you that, yes, we probably should have hung on to Brandon Boykin this season?
You would think. I mean, it doesn't look like a good trade now. The Eagles thought they had some depth and a number of bodies at the position. And by the way, they do have guys who can play the position. As you mentioned, Thurman has done it in the past successfully. Malcolm Jenkins has done it in the past successfully. Maxwell has done it. Carroll has done it. So all these veteran guys can do it, but you have to look at the next step and who comes in. If one of the corners, like Carroll, moves inside, then you have to have Eric Rowe on the outside. He's not ready to play. If one of the safeties drop down, then all of a sudden you have to have Ed Reynolds or Chris Maragos play the safety position, and they're not really ready to play in the base defense. So it becomes a domino issue. They do have plenty of guys to play that slot position, but they can't put them there because they don't have anyone else to replace them in the base defense. And that's the issue. Obviously, if you have Boykin, you could just put him there and not have an issue. So I think if Chip knew what he knew now, back then he wouldn't have made the trade. But, of course, he's never going to admit that.
One more for you, John McMullin, our Eagles insider, 973ESPN.com. Not sure where the roster stands now with the Barkley trade, but I think they have to go about maybe 9 or 10 more guys by tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Any more surprises upcoming here by Saturday at 4 o'clock with 9 or 10 more guys still having to be cut?
Well, the interesting one is going to be Kenyon Barner. The rumors are that he is on the trading block, as is Najee Good, the inside linebacker. So they're trying to open up space. I think Good is trying to be moved so they have a slot for Marcus Smith so they can keep on to him. They like Raheem Mostert at running back, and they may think they can't get him through waivers to put him on the practice squad. I don't necessarily agree with that thinking. And there's a lot of running backs out there who are on the trading block, guys like Monte Ball and Terrence West in Cleveland, and they might be better options for teams than Barner. So I think it's going to be difficult. But those are the two names I would keep an eye on because the Eagles are trying to flip them to create some roster spots for other guys.
All right, John McMullin, our Eagles insider. Check out 973ESPN.com for John's thoughts and opinions on the Eagles' final 53, Saturday at 4 o'clock. John, enjoy the Labor Day weekend.
Hey, thanks, Pete. You too.
All right, John McMullin, great job on the website, as always.